So, Sandra Villasenor, the floor is yours, and we'd love to hear about River King.
Thank you for that wonderful introduction. I'll just go ahead and start sharing my screen. And everyone.
And if you hit slide, it'll go full screen. It's not full screen yet.
Oh.
I think that's what we did earlier. Slide or slideshow, one of them should work.
Is it working now or no?
No.
Slideshow is one.
Share. Maybe.
She's working with Google, Brian, and I'm used to working with PowerPoint, so.
Is it not sharing?
I can see, but we can also see the slides coming up.
She might be going to another screen.
Did you try slideshow?
Yeah, I'm hitting slideshow.
Whatever you hit before when we were practicing worked beautifully. There it goes. Now it's full screen.
Okay. So if I do that, you still see it?
Yes.
Okay.
See the full screen.
All right.
The slide is at full screen. Looks great.
So yeah, my name is Sandra. Thank you for inviting me. I'm so excited to talk to you about river cane and the importance of protecting our native bamboo. So I want to first share a little bit about RiverLink and what I'm currently doing. So I'm the watershed coordinator at RiverLink. I've been the watershed coordinator for the past 2 years. And RiverLink is an environmental nonprofit located in Asheville. And our mission is to promote the environmental and economic vitality of the French Broad River watershed and the river itself as well. So a lot of the projects that we pursue are projects that help reduce stormwater runoff. In North Carolina, sediment is the #1 pollutant for our local streams and the French Broad River, and stormwater runoff being the primary carrier of sediment. So we do a lot of that work primarily. And so wanted to share about first the 3 main programs of RiverLink. First is watershed health, which is what I'm a part of, and I'll speak more to that in the next slide. Land conservation, we are an accredited land trust. We hold about 30 conservation easements. All of the properties mainly with an emphasis on water quality. So it's land that's either right next to a stream, or French Broad River, or even a wetland. And there also tend to be smaller parcels of land in an urban setting. So trying to protect those natural areas within that urban setting. And then also within our land conservation program, we have developed parks that are open to the public. So last year we developed a park called Karen Craignolan Park, and currently in the stages of creating a pollinator meadow. And it's part of the Greenway system in Asheville, and it has been used by locals and tourists for recreational and educational purposes. And then we just currently announced that we're also developing another park that'll open sometime next year. Our third program is environmental education. So we offer free lessons to students. Lessons range from macroinvertebrate sampling, so taking students out to learn about macros in a stream and why it's important to have a diverse range of macros and what does that mean for the stream, to a stream table lesson, thinking about how water is moving, why we need to think about where development is happening and how water affects our downstream communities, as well as a stormwater model lesson that talks about runoff and how runoff affects our local streams as well. And then part of our environmental education program, we also have an after-school program, so working with different organizations and nonprofits to provide free after-school care. And then since we're in the summer, we also do a river camp called River Rats. And kids also, attend these lessons as well. So this is part of our mission to foster and create the next generation of river stewards. So wanted to talk more a little bit about the watershed health program that I'm a part. And I sort of split it into three main areas that I help and support with. So the first is our Water Rich program, which is a RiverLink initiative to assist homeowners and individuals in understanding and implementing rainwater management. So Water Rich stands for water recycling, infiltrating, and conservation for the home. And we offer free guides in implementing green infrastructure in your own home, such as putting a rain barrel guide, or disconnecting your downspout, or creating and designing a rain garden or a bioswale. A lot of the homeowners, especially in the mountainous areas, have erosion issues in their home, or there's just a lot of runoff that is flowing off from their roof. They want to find a practical and useful way, as well as one, if it's going to benefit the environment, because these gardens also provide habitat for pollinators. Our Water Rich program helps with that. And thus, furthering our mission in promoting green infrastructure to reduce runoff from entering our streams. And then the second thing that we do is stream restoration projects, or these really stream restoration projects are pretty costly. So we apply for grant funding if we find a stream that we can help and it needs some engineered design, we'll apply for those grants. And then the third that I help with is an Adopt a Storm Drain program. So working with volunteers to adopt a storm drain that is near them, could be near where they work or exercise, or if it's on a walk, to school or something. It's a nice way for volunteers to volunteer on their own time. And also a lot of people don't realize that, all that water that goes over the roads and our streets that pick up, pollutants and like pesticides or fertilizers or oils, go to our storm drains, and all that trash or leaf litter that clogs the storm drains. All that untreated runoff goes to our streams and then flows eventually to a bigger body of water, or in our case, the French Broad River. So yeah, that's a little bit of what I do. And I hope that gives you a sense of, how I got into River cane. So the River cane restoration project. So I actually did not really know as well that the United States has native bamboo until this project that I was fortunate to be a part of. And there's a 1 acre plot along the Wilma Dykeman Greenway, which is located in the River Arts District of Asheville. And our office is also located in the River Arts District. And it's an area that is the greenways that are used a lot by locals and tourists. And my manager, our watershed resources manager, she's also my supervisor, Renee Fortner, noticed that this patch was completely taken over by invasive kudzu. And this river cane was really struggling to, to just flourish and establish itself as a healthy patch of river cane. And this 1 acre property is owned by the city of Asheville and maintained by Asheville's Parks and Recreation. And since the greenway is also used, it's a very highly trafficked, visible place or area, we thought this could be a really good opportunity to educate both local and tourists on, what is river cane through educational signage and different outreach opportunities. So we proposed this project to the Cherokee Preservation Foundation, and fortunately we got it. And for the past, I would say 15 months, we've been working on restoring this piece of land. So yeah, the two primarily objectives of this project is first the environmental, a restoration project that will protect and promote river cane for as long as for many years, as long as we have this partnership with the city of Asheville. And then the second is the cultural aspect, to promote Cherokee culture through different outreach events and educational signage. So those were the two main objectives through this project that we wanted to do. So invasive species removal. So the main goal of one of the main goals of this project was to do a 98% reduction in invasive plant cover. And we tracked this by mapping the invasive plants before and after the invasive plant management. And I wish I had a better picture of just how much this kudzu was taking over the river cane. I hope you can see in the back, there's like a pile of kudzu. There were several of those, and they had to be picked up by the Parks and Recreation. And then I thought this was also a very neat photo in demonstrating the kudzu crown. It was just these kudzu vines were just completely taking over, as well as climbing over the trees. So to do all of this work, thankfully, our volunteers, they were amazing. We held weekly volunteer work days, and we started in the summer of 2023 all the way to the early winter of last year. And they were digging the kudzu crowns, kudzu vine maybe I didn't explain, but the kudzu crown is like the heart of the kudzu. If you dig around it, you sort of have to find a vine and find where it's connected towards the ground. And you dig around it, and then you cut like the surrounding roots of the kudzu crown. And it's like you get the heart, you kill the vine, essentially. And so, yeah, we did that for a couple months. And that was over approximately 80 volunteers that helped us, and about 170 volunteer hours to get that result. So really big thanks for our volunteers. And then, yes, part of this restoration project was to host educational events. So the volunteer work days are also considered educational. All the volunteer participants that helped out were trained on how to identify river cane from invasive bamboo, and how to do invasive removal of kudzu. We also did a series of blog posts. So the first one was how to identify river cane and the importance of it. And the second one was the art of river cane basketry, which speaks on how Cherokee basket makers rely on river cane to preserve their craft. And we got several thousands of people that were reading these blogs. So there's a lot of good interest in river cane. So that's really good. And then we hosted a couple workshops, collaborating with a nonprofit called Kudzu Culture. They sort of promote different ways on how we could use kudzu to sort of maintain its population through using the vines to make wreaths and baskets. And then, the participants that came to that workshop also learned about river cane as well. And then we hosted a lunch and learn with a guest speaker, Nicholas Thorne, who is a Penobscot native, but has a lot of knowledge of Cherokee culture as well. And he's an ecologist and educator, and he spoke on the indigenous perspectives of river cane. So all of this work, all these tools and materials and educational events were funded by the Cherokee Preservation Foundation. So we're very grateful to them. So now on to river cane. So first I want to talk just very briefly about bamboo as just a whole. It's a large clade of the family Poaceae. Bamboos are a grass. There's about 1,642 species worldwide. Most are evergreen perennial plants with a distinct life cycle. They have a vegetative phase, followed by a mass synchronized flowering or sporadic flowering, depending on the species, and then a subsequent death. And then bamboo species across the world play different important cultural and ecological roles. So before I did this work with river cane, I thought maybe some of you that bamboo is mainly, from the Asia continent, but there are bamboo species in every continent except Europe and Antarctica, with obviously the majority in Asia. So wanted to go over that there are actually 3 native bamboo species in the US, and they're all found within the Southeast US. The first is river cane, which is the one that I'm mainly going to be speaking about, A. gigantea. The main distinction that I'd like to share is that it grows along stream banks and floodplains. It does not like to be in wet feet. It's okay being inundated, but not prolonged. It has to be well-drained soil. The second is A tecta, so Arundinaria tecta, also known as switch cane or small cane. This tends to live in coastal plain and lower elevation and tends to like more moist sites. And then the third, which is an endemic, mainly found in the southern Appalachian Mountains and upper Piedmont, and grows more upland in forest and woodland areas. So this one is called hill cane, also known as A. appalachiana. River cane of the three is the tallest, I guess the biggest species of the three. I always forget of A. tecta and A. appalachiana, which one is the smallest one. But they are within like 1 foot to 6 feet. I just always forget which one's the smallest one. But just wanted to acknowledge that there are actually 3 native bamboo species in the US, but I will be mainly speaking about river cane. So yeah, just quick overview. What is river cane? It's a bamboo species native to the Southeast United States. It's an evergreen perennial grass, so it has that green foliage all year round, those green leaves. And the large, dense stands of cane are what are called cane breaks. And cane breaks are these ecological communities that excel at stabilizing stream banks. They have these extensive root networks that helps hold the soil in place, and they have different also environmental benefits that I will be talking about. So the river cane distribution, for thousands of years, river cane has been used by Southeast natives for a bunch of different items, such as fishing creels, fishing poles, blowguns, mats, like sleeping mats, used to prepare food, building materials, roofs, arrow shafts, baskets. It by historians has been described as like a plastic, like their version of a plastic. It's just so versatile. It can be used to create different items. Unfortunately, today it is estimated that cane breaks occupy less than 2% of their original habitat. So what was once hundreds of thousands of acres is that number right now is only less than 2%. In this presentation, I will be speaking more about the Eastern Band of Cherokee and how Cherokee basket makers use river cane, but I also want to acknowledge that it's not just the EBCI. There are different Southeastern Native tribes that use river cane for different uses, such as Seminole, the Huma, Choctaw. It's not just the Eastern Band of Cherokee. So rhizomes. Rhizomes are the underground stems. They're like the roots of the river cane, and they grow horizontally. And rhizomes consist of nodes which develop into those roots and into those new plants. So I thought this was a really cool picture to demonstrate that rhizomes. And these rhizomes allow the plants to form these large, interconnected colonies, making it a very robust and resilient species. And they also help the river cane to quickly colonize an area, and they play a vital role in soil stabilization. So really interesting. I mean, when I find a rhizome, I'm just instantly amazed at just how long it just extends. So the next thing I want to talk about is the flowering cycle. So bamboos each one is specific. They have like their own different genetic clock. River cane is the same. Unfortunately, we do not really know when they flower. There are some observations that suggest that they flower within 30 to 40 years. That number could honestly be wrong because we don't really know when they flower. And we'd have to wait, a set amount of, decades to find out. And so the source of seed is unpredictable. And so when we are speaking about restoring or doing a restoration project, we don't really want to rely on seeds to create a canebrake. The most common use to do a restoration project is through transplanting, which I will speak about in the next slide. But I did want to share that when a canebrake does flower, it produces hundreds of thousands of seeds, and those birds will consume many of those seeds, but the sheer number of seeds will ensure that there's enough to germinate and restore the canebrake. So transplanting, Riverlink, this was before my time at Riverlink, but we actually did help with a transplanting project a couple years back. And it was with Warren Wilson College. They were doing this really big stream restoration mitigation project. And there was a river king growing along the banks. And so we helped in sort of just digging up, transplanting the majority of the canebrake, and then moving it to West Asheville Park. So when transplanting, the plant has to be at least 1 foot high, and then below has to be at least 2 feet of rhizomes with the roots attached. And then you want to make sure when you're transplanting that it's 3 to 6 inches deep. And when you're transplanting, it has to be immediate, and to the new area that you're transplanting, make sure that you're watering, or there's going to be irrigation. And transplanting can occur from the late fall to winter to early spring, but the best success rate is during the winter. And for really bigger restoration projects, this one, there wasn't a ton of river cane. We just mainly used like these big buckets, and we were just using shovels and sort of dug them out and transported them. But for some bigger restoration projects where they're transporting cane that is a couple feet tall, they'll use like a backhoe or machinery to sort of like dig it up. It's really cool. But that's mainly the primary way. If we're going to establish a new canebrake, you want to dig it up from a canebrake that has already been established and introduce it to a new area. So canebrakes actually do need some level of just management. Periodic disturbances or natural disturbances actually benefit the growth of a canebrake. And there are 2 ways to do that. So either cutting or pruning or harvesting the cane, the open spaces left by harvesting that cane will stimulate that regeneration. And then canebrakes are also rejuvenated by burning of every 7 to 10 years. And that also helps to maintain and expand the canebrake. And canebrakes, they're just adapted to this disturbance. And the different forms is either through like a prescribed burning by indigenous people, or it could be a riverine flooding. They're also very adaptable when there's a flood event. Could be a fire caused by like a lightning fire, a windstorm. Actually, what had happened with our restoration project before we did the invasive removal of the kudzu, the Asheville Parks and Recreation accidentally cut some of the river cane. The supervisor that was in charge of that day was not there. But it actually ended up helping us a bit because it was easier for us to find the invasive kudzu, but the river cane just like it just stimulated and created more culms or stems and just created a more dense stand. So that is part of the management that used to stimulate the growth of a canebrake. So wanted to share just a couple of factors as to why did the canebrakes disappear? Why is there only 2% left of what is predicted of the 100,000s of acres? The first is agriculture. Post European contact, European settlers, where did they settle? Like along the rivers and streams, the flat areas, the lands, and those lands, or where river cane, used to grow, were converted to agriculture. And with agriculture brings livestock, and river cane is also a really good plant for livestock to eat, but the overgrazing contributed a lot to the decline of it. And then lastly is urban development. To this day, river cane aside, just in general, we have developed a practice in cutting down native vegetation along our stream banks, along our rivers, because we want the view of the river, but we need those native plants. We need those streamside forests, those riparian buffers, because they hold down the soil. They help with erosion control. So those are I would say the three main reasons as to why. The fourth I would also add is fire suppression. We don't really do prescribed burns anymore. That was a practice of indigenous tribes. And now obviously that practice is coming back. So yeah, I would say those are the four main reasons. So yeah, I wanted to share about the environmental importance of river cane, and I sort of categorize them into three different topics. So first is provides habitat for wildlife. It helps enhance water quality, and it stabilizes stream banks. So first, habitat for wildlife. A canebrake, its dense growth provides critical habitat for a variety of wildlife, including birds, insects, and small mammals. And these canebrakes offer shelter and breeding grounds and foraging. And surveys and literature have identified at least 23 mammal species, 16 bird species, 4 reptile species, and 7 invertebrates that have lived within canebrakes, and animals from large to small. There are recordings of deer to bears, of moles and shrews and raccoons and birds that have all lived within these canebrakes. I can tell you that when I've volunteered, or when I've been leading these work days, and I've been working among the cane, like I've seen a couple snake skins, had a lot of encounter with spiders, and I've seen bird nests. So it's very there's a lot of living life living with it in it. And we also worked a lot in very, very hot days in the summer, but the canebrake, when you're underneath it, is so cooling. It provides perfect shade. So during those hot days, I was sort of glad I was working in those sort of taller cane stands. And then I also wanted to share that there are actually 6 species of butterflies that are called cane brake specialists. They rely on river cane as a host plant. And I only picked 2 of the 6 specialists just as a photo, the southern pearly eye and the Creole pearly eye, but the 4 other butterflies are the southern swamp skipper, the cobweb little skipper, the cane little skipper, and the little skipper. So with the decline of river cane, unfortunately, there's also a decline of these 6 butterfly species as they rely on this plant. So the second reason as to why it's so environmentally important is that cane brakes make an excellent riparian buffer. So at Riverlink, we love, promote woody vegetation, native trees and shrubs and grasses, because native grasses have longer roots that can really hold soil, and river cane is one of those plant species that make an excellent riparian buffer. And the reason why is the density of these stems or these culms is that when it rains and there's a lot of water that is being run off, that cane brake will sort of act as a sponge. It'll sort of like slow down the water from entering the stream. So stormwater runoff, once again, carries pollutants, carries sediment. So it enhances cleaner water quality by preventing all those pollutant sediment from entering our local waterways. So once again, it also stabilizes stream banks. I thought this was a really neat photo. This was from a years back of that transplanting, and a volunteer was holding the rhizome and just the density or the length of the rhizome. And another reason why as to native river cane is good is because invasive bamboo tends to be taller, but its roots are shallower, whereas river cane, approximately 1/3 of its biomass is underground, and then 2/3 of it is, the plant on above ground. So they really have the extensive rhizomes, that underground network, are really good at just, holding that soil and preventing erosion on our stream banks. So we actually developed a guide at Riverlink on how to differentiate river cane from non-native bamboos. And we split it into really 3 main characteristics: the height of the plant, the branching pattern, and then the stems, otherwise known as the culms. So the stems, river cane is typically 6 to 20 feet. It can grow up to more than 30 feet tall, but it takes decades to reach that growth. Nowadays, you'll probably most likely just see river cane that is 6 to 20 feet tall. And then non-native bamboo grows at a faster rate. It can reach heights of 30 feet or more. But the thing that is most helpful to really distinguish between river cane and invasive bamboo is the branching pattern. So river cane has a node, and at each node is the branches that'll grow out of the node, and they'll sort of just grow parallel against the culm or the stem. And then the culm and the stem of river cane is typically less than 1 inch diameter. It is not a very thick cane. Invasive bamboo, on the other hand, tends to be more than 1 inch in diameter, the stem. and the branches from the nodes are at a 45-degree angle. So if you see that the branches are like really close to the stem, that's a sign that it's river cane. If it's far apart from the stem, that's a sign that it's an invasive bamboo. And this is really the main distinction between just river cane and invasive bamboo as a whole. And yeah, I sort of touched on, but yeah, that is the photo to the left. That is a visual of my thumb and of a river cane patch that I visited at a restoration project. And it is, I would say that river cane was around 10 feet, and it was at that diameter about an inch. And then another distinction on the stem that invasive bamboo that it has is that it has a more it has a groove on the side that's more pronounced called the sulcus, and that's not really found on river cane. So yeah, I wanted to talk on the cultural importance of river cane, and it is not only important ecologically. It is one of the oldest materials used in Cherokee culture to create these beautiful baskets. And Cherokee basketry is unique and an integral part of their culture and history. For centuries, river cane basket making techniques and knowledge have been passed down from generation to generation. And I don't know about you, but I'm a crafty person. I like to crochet, I like to paint. But when I want to buy yarn or paint, I go to a Michael's or a Hobby Lobby. Cherokee basket makers have to harvest the materials from scratch, process it, and then they eventually like make the basket. So that's their unique ability. I'm not a Cherokee basket maker. I have had the honor to go to the Cherokee Museum in Cherokee and visit the Qualla Arts and Cultural Center and see these basket makers and these baskets that were made. So I'm just sharing sort of a brief of way of how they're harvested, but I encourage you to read more about it. I'm just going to do sort of a brief of the process of how it is. So first is they harvest river cane. Because there is a decline of river cane, unfortunately, Cherokee artisans are having to travel further distances to find suitable river cane. And from what I've heard, they need river cane that is more, at a minimum, 2 years old. But I would say it's between 2 to 7 years is when they harvest. Then when they harvest the river cane, they use a knife to split the stem and divide it into quarters. If the stem is, the diameter is wide enough, they could split it into 6s. But these, I guess, skinny, stems are called splints. And then with each splint, they also have to make sure that each splint they use the knife is flattened evenly. So when they eventually weave the basket. And forming these splints requires, a high level of skill. It's, the height of the river cane is how big the basket is going to be. They're not going to cut it in the middle. So they just have to make sure that when they cut it from the very top to the bottom, that it's a singular, like cutting it within quarters. And then the third step is once they have shaped it, they dye it. And they dye it using a bunch of different plants, but I mainly just chose 3 of the the most common ones. First is black walnut. They use the root, and the black walnut creates that black color, black dye. The bloodroot is a flowering plant, creates that reddish color. And then butternut, the inner bark of the butternut will create that yellowish, light brownish color. Finally, once after all of that is complete, they harvest, they shape it, they dye it, they've processed all the material, then they can go ahead and create and weave the basket. So this is actually, as part of our project, we also got grant funding to be able to purchase a river cane basket. And we went to the Kuala Arts and chose a basket to be used for educational purposes when we do future workshops or future events where we want to educate on river cane. This was the basket that we got, and it was dyed with the walnut. And I want to share that river cane basket makers, once again, it's a time-consuming process, and they're working with, a material that is not so common anymore. So this basket was around, from what I remember, $800 to $900, and that's all including the time, the prep, to source, weave the basket, and make sure that they're being paid for their expertise and fairly compensated. So even though it looks small, it's a rare, it's a rare and time-honored craft that has existed for generations. So yeah, and also wanted to share that another part of this project is that we are looking to continue to working with the city of Asheville to make sure that the 1 acre property is safe, so that eventually the Cherokee basket makers in the future will be able to harvest this river cane. Right now it's pretty small. It's I'm around 5'3", and it goes to my chest right now, so it's probably 4 feet tall. So we'll have to wait a couple more years for it to be harvestable. And it's not just RiverLink that is doing this work. The Cherokee Preservation Foundation is partnering with different landowners, organizations, nonprofits that are interested in this work and want to maintain and preserve this natural resource for both the cultural and environment. One organization I can share is Conserving Carolina. They have a really cool Mud Creek restoration site. It's 103 acres of the floodplain, and there's also river cane growing that they're trying to establish cane breaks, and where the Cherokee basket makers will also be able to access this land and use it to harvest river cane when they need it. So there's a lot of interest, and yeah, that's one of the main reasons for the Cherokee Preservation Foundation for funding this project. So that's all I have to share. I don't know if I reached the amount of time that I was given. But yeah, if anyone has any questions, or I don't know.
There are a few comments in the chat, but no actual questions. At least not that I've seen yet. comments like volunteers are amazing.
Uh,
And this applies also to the Memphis area, which is along the river. So yeah, lots of good interest here. Well, there's a Cane Ridge community in Davidson County. And yes, this is being recorded. So anybody with questions, please go ahead and put them in the chat, or raise your hand and we'll answer them. Okay. Any questions? You might want to click out of your slideshow. There we go. Now we can see everybody, or at least a lot of folks did that. I've been really impressed with all this information about river cane. Been very thorough, and I find it intriguing. I'll certainly look at bamboo with a different mindset from now on. So what actually does anything actually eat river cane? Do you know? Or do they just use it for habitat?
I'm sure there are some species that might eat river cane. There's still a lot of research that needs to be done, but I'm not quite sure. I would say it's mostly though for habitat.
Mm-hmm.
Can I ask a question?
Sure, go ahead, Tim.
I'm a part-time resident in Asheville, and Sandra, I just wanted to know, where is the 1 acre area you're preserving? Is it in the River Arts District, or?
Yeah, it's the Wilma Dykeman Greenway along I want to say Lyman Street near Riverside
yes.
Drive.
I've walked on that. Right.
It's not entirely 1 acre. I only say 1 acre just to in sake of
Right.
it's probably like more 0.7, 0.8.
Mhm.
But one of the primary reasons why we wanted that spot is just the high visibility chance. We're going to put educational signage soon for people to learn about river cane. So yeah.
Yeah, and it's strange because I have at my home I have a forest. Now this is in Nashville, and I've got cane growing, and this was very informative. I didn't know there were three types, and so what I have must be the hill cane, the Appalachiana, because it's growing in a woodland with oak and hickory and maple. And so this was very valuable information.
If you have that, you may want to get it ID'd, because the hill cane, I was just looking at the map from the Tennessee herbaria, the county map, and
Yeah.
it's only in the southeast corner, like Hamilton County. And so if you have it now, maybe they just haven't updated the map, but you might want to see if you can get somebody to ID that, because you might be the first person to report it for your county.
Wow. Yeah, this would be in Davidson County.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
I didn't I didn't look at the atlas to see if maybe they've updated, but no, that's because, and the switch cane is only in, I think, McNairy County, one county.
Really?
They only have
Okay.
reported.
I'm gonna just break in here real quick and say that a lot of the canes, if you look at the historical use of cane brakes and why they were used and why Europeans got rid of them, there were a lot of cane brakes that have been extirpated. So what we're looking at now is not what was historically present before European contact, basically.
We have a lot of cane in Shelby
And
County.
there-
And
and
also,
this is something I wanted to point Sandra to. I don't remember the episode exactly, but there's an In Defense of Plants podcast with a guest who has been also studying cane breaks in the Southeast and their historical occurrence.
Virginia Reynolds has had her hand up. Virginia, would you like to turn mute off and ask your question?
well, I was wondering, if you ever come to Memphis, you can see all kinds of cane and bamboo because pandas eat bamboo, and the zoo had a patch, it still exists out at Shelby Farms with various types of bamboo and cane, and it's still there, although the pandas are no longer with us. But anyway, plus we do have a lot of cane all along the Wolf River and the Mississippi. It's pretty common. But the question is, what can we do to encourage it, more people to let it grow instead of mowing it down?
Yeah, I think in general, not just river cane, but just our native vegetation, and even along in where our RiverLink office is, we get complaints from homeowners of someone mowing down their stream bank. So I think it's really just educating on your neighbor or people that on the importance of having those plants along those stream banks. And yeah, I agree. What the river cane that we see nowadays, it isn't what it was like hundreds of years ago. The river cane is now just existing on like a narrow patch, right against the stream, the river cane right in the middle, and then there's like a road. We sort of just built our roads just along our streams, and just so I think just in general, I want to educate more people on why it's important to have those riparian buffers, because then we create those erosion issues, and yeah, stream bank erosion and sedimentation. So I hope that answered your question.
Yes.
Sandra, could you, in that vein, could you share with us, send me copies of the two identification slides? And we could post that information on our Facebook page to help alert people to look for it and recognize that it is an actual native.
Yeah, let me see. I can send, I do have a guide, but I also.
A guide would be helpful too, but those two slides in particular would help people identify whether what they're dealing with is actually an invasive, which most people are assuming it is. We need to alert them to the fact that it might be a native. If so, keep it.
Yeah, here's the blog post with those photos. I shared it in the chat. It links to that
Okay.
website, but I'll make sure to send it to you in an email, that link as well.
Okay, thank you very much. I'll make sure that we get a little bit more publicity for it. Spread the word a little further. There have been a lot of comments. Becky says, this has been fascinating. Lorraine says, thank you very much. This was very informative. There's a question. Jane asks, how common is the river cane in Rutherford County? I see patches of it occasionally. Bettina, if you're looking at the maps for Tennessee, maybe you can catch up on that one.
Okay, let me call that back up real quick.
Jennifer says, thank you so much. This was quite informative.
London area.
Jean asks, how would you distinguish Appalachian cane from river cane besides size?
Yeah, I think if I'm remembering correctly, um,
Would that be the angle of the branches also?
no, I think if you cut like the Appalachian cane and you see like the lumen, like the hole, the hollow, it's smaller than the river cane. That's from videos, that's what I've learned. I've mainly really only, since I'm from the Asheville area, come across river cane, but I think that's one way you can distinguish from the Appalachian from the river cane.
So
Besides,
the lumen is smaller in the river cane.
the lumen is smaller in the Appalachian.
Yes, it
Um,
looks like it's in Rutherford County.
a friend of mine who was studying the various canes, this doesn't help with the two that you just mentioned, but a rondinori tecta, she said that you can always tell that when it's if you cut a culm or you cut a stem off at the base and look at it, you'll see a circle of air chambers around the edges.
Oh, that's interesting.
Huh?
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. And the the thing with river cane is, you know, I feel like I'm still learning every day, and I'm learning from either basket makers or other people who've had encounters with cane. And there's still, you know, much more research, you know, needed just in general with our plants. So thank you for sharing that.
I'm gonna jump in here and say, as somebody who struggles with grass and sedge,
Grass is hard.
yeah, grass and sedge identification. I'm great with the herbaceous perennials, but or not great, but I'm good. But you know, I mean, there are subtleties that you don't look at very often unless you're really intensely with the grasses and the sedges. Um, and they can be challenging, but they're also fun, and I enjoy learning more about them. But there are things like this: cut it off at the base and look at the pattern, and it'll tell you what kind of sedge it is. And I think that's a lie for the most part, because the the there could be plants that have the same pattern when you cut them off. Their vascular structure could be very similar. That's not really going to tell you that much about the plant. I'd say more the flowering and fruiting stage is going to give you the definitive answer rather than them telling you there's going to be a star shape in the center of the stem in mid-August.
Okay.
And that sounds a little sarcastic, but that's just from, you know, that's from frustration.
I hear you.
Right?
They're hard. Brant Miller had an interesting question. He says, I've read that sections of callums can be planted for propagation. Any thoughts on this?
Yeah, my supervisor, she actually did some propagation work with river cane. And there are people that are doing propagation. I don't really have experience with propagation of river cane. We had one volunteer in this restoration project who got really into it, and she did a lot of research and was watching videos of people propagating river cane, and she, I think did 3 different cuttings and planted them. And I mean, we won't, as of right now, see the results of it because it's still relatively new. And there's researchers are still doing a lot of research on propagation of river cane. But in terms of like having the best success rate of wanting to establish a cane break, it's really through transplanting if you want that sort of density.
Okay. Thank you. Um,
Oh, hey, Sandra. Um, this could be difficult logistically, but I would hate to not mention that a partner with the Tennessee Plant Conservation Alliance. And so something that the Memphis Botanic Garden supports in my work there is the propagation of rare plants that are in need of reintroduction. So potential, space for propagating a portion.
Yeah, I know there's a lot of interest in different organizations. I don't know about Riverlink. I think right now we're just if there's an opportunity to collaborate with other organizations and it makes sense, then we'll do it. And the volunteer that we had, she was just very interested and I wanted to, I thought it propagation
Well,
it is a way, but
the more material that we have on hand to preserve these plants, the better, even if it's sort of not exactly logistically the easiest. It's at least the Tennessee Plant Conservation Alliance, our viewpoint is that we don't want to allow local extinctions. And so we would also be willing to extend our capacity to.
Are there any interest in the Memphis area for river cane propagating?
I mean, there should be. I don't know if there is yet. I could try to generate that interest. There are a number of I know a professor at Memphis State, and she's got some great students. So this could be something that could be on the radar as a grad student project.
it could be promoted as a way to help prevent flooding.
Yeah, and it's local. And I don't know.
The local ecosystem.
Yeah, this hasn't really gotten much attention, but across the river, there's going to be an enormous restoration effort. A lot of the farmland is going to go away, and it's going to be bottomland again. So it's
good.
Yeah, it's really exciting. I think it's big enough that they actually have their heads around what they're looking at doing. So there could be a lot of restoration ecology work where cane breaks would be totally appropriate in that Arkansas side of the river.
I do want to emphasize that Sandra has placed a link in the chat to help people with access the river cane keep to restoring a signature mountain ecosystem. So that we'll get you in touch with some of the information she has available. So people can do a little bit further research on their topics. Other comments are thank you for this information. So beneficial. Well done. I had no idea. So enjoyable. I thoroughly enjoyed this. Thank you. You really touched a spot that a lot of people were curious about and have really enjoyed. So thank you, Sandra. I'm going to say it's getting late. We'll let folks go and let Sandra go. So thank you very, very much, Sandra. We have enjoyed this. I've enjoyed this. I know. I've learned a lot
Yeah,
about a topic, about a plant that I had no knowledge. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for letting me, share knowledge and experience, and hope that everyone has a good evening.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
Really, thank you. And with that, I'm going to say good night to everyone.
Good night.
And thank you for joining us, and hope to see most of you next month.